Oh, how about that? This imagery, man. This is... He lives. Oh, this is about to be emotional, isn't it? Oh, look at this. Poof. Oh, right. Oh my god. Unconditional love, eh? Whoa. Oh, it's happening. It's happening. Like Lazarus. Oh, yeah, I'm about to see a different type of king. King Meruem. Whoa. Look at this art style. That's the highest of praise. Ooh. Yeah, a bit of that Eva inspiration is coming back in. Oh! He must be on cloud 9. Paradise for him. That's all he ever wanted. Ooh. Look at the detail there. Yeah, it kind of takes me back to his birth. It's the highest of praise. Poof has ascended. Heaven's bliss. I mean, this is orgasmic for him, isn't it? I mean, he is a magical beast, right? He can do... Whoa. Yeah, he can do all kinds of things. This is different. This is special. This is erotic. To hear this from their king is... Oof. Oh my god. All for one, one for all. They'll gladly give everything. Bro, this is an orgy. Unconditional love. Wow. Togashi. This pivot is something special. Oh, the queen.
これはなんだこの気持ちは
Oh.
これからはようメルエムと呼ぶがいい。
And he's embraced it. Look at this, the light. Mother's love. Poof and Yuppie felt it as
そ
well.
れこそ母より賜りし世の名前。
そうかこれこそが
Yep.
無償の
A mother's unconditional love.
絶対的存在の死と再生に際し、さらに自身を
Oh, is this
共
it?
有することによって、プフとユピーが到達したのは、種の頂点、女王の域。
Hmm. Wow. But listen, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about the radioactive fallout. And he returns.
明らかに力が増している
Ooh.
以前の王より明らかに我々の肉体がお役に立ったのだ
How about
そ
his...
して王の一部になんという光栄なんという至福
Listen, I'm happy for Poof.
王の体温王の意識まで共有しているかのようしかしだからこそ分かる
Oh.
王は今困惑なさっているメルエム様
Oh.
お加減はいかがでございますか
料理。そうか。あの味は現実か。まばゆい光の中で何者かが世の名前を呼んだ。メルエムと。それが夢か現実か。判然とせぬ。
I have chills right now, head to toe.
世がここにいるのか思い出せぬ。
メルエム様ご記憶が
気分は悪くない。いや、むしろ全身に力がみなぎっている。頭だけが霞みかかって。お主たち、そのなりはどうした？
Go on then.
我々の分身を偵察に出しております敵の残党を探し出し始末するため
Don't lie to me.
たとえ世をおもんぱかってのことだとしても、世に対する偽りは背信と心得よ。
Tell him.
もう二度は言わぬぞ。世は食ったのだな。お主たちを爆発。
はい
It's coming back.
敵と1対1の決闘に臨みここへ来ました。しかし卑劣な人間どもは強力な爆弾という汚い手段でもって王の誠意に裏切りで応えたのです
1対1。そう。世は1対1で戦っていた。
Oh, look at Yuppie.
我々の体は余すところなく
At your disposal.
所有されるもの宮殿へ戻りましょうそれが記憶回復の早道にございます
Ah, Poof's got other ideas, eh?
千載一遇の
Oh, he's turning back.
一足先に宮殿に
And take care of business, perhaps.
あれを始末
Komugi.
今ならば王にあ
Yeah,
れを
this is perfect for Poof.
今ならばあれの存在を消してしまえば思い出す機会もなくなる理屈
He'll remember her, regardless of that.
やってしまえばあとはどうとでもなるのです
And that's all there is to it.
王がこれから宮殿に向かうとして全力で走っても20分はかかるやるだけならば十分の時間さ
Yep.
生まれた時から我が身の一部だったかのような
A
自
part of Yuppie.
すぐにでも飛べる
Yeah, how about that for 20 minutes? Poof. He's so proud. Look at him.
救
Yuppie.
援はどっちだ
今の王ならば急げば15分
Oh, I thought it'd be quicker than that now.
ある世の欲する答えが
He could just feel the pull of it. Yeah, that's more like it. Oh, look at this shot. Beautiful.
あの小娘さえ目に入らなければ護衛軍として女王の意志を継ぐ者として 消去する下賤な人の娘などいない
Yeah, she's under their protection now.
どこへ
The squad.
箱悪い
Got him good. Again, it is a clone.
あんたはすでにこの目で見ている
Oh. I mean, yeah. But
眉になる前にどこにいても私には
ah, right. She said the same thing about Gone last episode, right?
夫婦
He got bamboozled.
わかりません
Fatso's back. Poof.
敵の残党に反撃された結果のようです
王は
Oh.
王は生きていた
Masterpiece? I think so. I think so. Okay, episode 128. And by the end of it, it's really quite clear to everyone that's at play here that the king lives, right? You know, you see the shots of their expressions there. The extermination squad. You know, Ikalgo, Killua, Palm, Meliaron, and Knuckle, right? That's you know, that's quite the news to get. Again, facilitated by Palm's ability, and he's heading here right now, right? So let's kind of look at that immediately, right? The connotations of that. So immediately, you know, that safety net is gone because now they know that their champion, the Chairman Netero, he failed to stop the Chimera and King. Now, of course, you know, they don't have the entire story of how it played out, right? There's only really one person who knows. And, you know, by some miracle, you know, once again, the stars have aligned and he lives. And that is the King Meruem, right? So maybe, you know, the story of the final moments of the iconic, the legendary Chairman Netero might actually be shared through Meruem, right? You know, it remains to be seen how exactly Meruem is going to handle the extermination squad, right? His interactions from this point on. But yeah, you know, I mean, of course, there's a lot of talking points here, you know, just the fact that he has returned, that he has survived. Ultimately, that's a big swing, right? A lot of pros and cons. It's a big risk. It just is, right? After, you know, that incredible episode 126 and everything it meant, right? Those two coming together and again, the narrative flow of that episode. So yeah, you know, at this point, the safety net is gone, right? Their champion was not able to do it, right? And actually beyond that, it automatically means that not only was he not able to do it, right? If you're looking at it from their perspective, the extermination squad's perspective, he's dead at this point, right? If the king is alive, that means the chairman must be dead. So just imagine being in their shoes at that point, and I think, the expressions and that final frame of all of them in like a collage, that certainly tells a story, right? It's got to be panic stations at this point. How could it not be, right? And again, if you look at it from their perspective, it must seem kind of like a final stand at this point, right? Because at the base level, they must be thinking, oh, okay, this is it. It's us now, right? Us against the king and the returning royal guards. But again, one thing that has been kind of worked out in their favor, I suppose, is that it appears that both the guards, but specifically Yuppie, is essentially out of it now, as far as combat is concerned. He's not going to gain his form back, right? He gave it up. He gave it up for good reason. He gave it up by choice, out of his eternal love and loyalty to his king. Unconditional love at that. And again, that applies to Poof as well. He was actually the first to immediately step in, right? Consume me, take all you need. And you see that our King Meruem-sama, as Yuppie and Poof so lovingly put, he acquired a taste for it, right? He needed more. Give me as much as you can. Hell, you could even kind of take a different angle there. Was there a bit of, I don't know, was he kind of exploiting it, right? Once he got a taste for it, once he kind of understood, okay, I'm on the brink. He's been brought back from the brink of death, right? If they don't come across him, it just doesn't happen. He would have died, right? Who knows how much longer he had? Minutes, maybe an hour at most. I don't even know. Maybe that's being a little generous there. I'm guessing he had like minutes, right? Maybe 15 to 20 minutes left if no one comes across his charred body. And one of the things I love so much, and I loved quite a bit about this episode as far as the visuals are concerned, because, I'm not speaking of just the fidelity, I'm speaking of evocative imagery, right? Iconic imagery that really makes you feel, makes you think, right? I really truly feel that this episode 128, has some of the most memorable and iconic imagery of this entire anime. Alongside, episodes like 126. I really put it at that level. You saw at the end there, my, immediate raw reaction to it. I felt that it's a bit of a masterpiece. Again, that could be really quite subjective, I suppose, but I'm here to give you my take. And by the end of that episode, that's how I felt. That I've just sat through a bit of an odyssey here, something really, really quite incredible. And, it also happens to be up my alley. This approach, this really experimental approach. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, and I've seen this type of imagery in film and other, medium before. I've seen this type of stuff quite a bit, actually, over my lifetime. So the moment, it became clear that I'm about to get something really quite abstract and experimental and out there, this exploration of mind, body, and soul, right, beyond just a physical form, a journey within, right, a shared, incredible bonding experience that brings all three of them together as one, right? One for all for one. I think I switched that up. I knew I'm in for something special, man. But, before I really dive into that aspect of it, let's kind of go back to Yuppie, right? Yuppie gave it all up. So did Poof, but, the situation's a bit different for Poof because at the time of giving his, his essence up, his body up, cannibalism as a metaphor for love, it's something I've experienced before. No, not personally, experienced in storytelling before, right? So it was really quite interesting to see Togashi's take on it, right? And, again, that idea of becoming one, right? Becoming a part of something you respect and love so much. And, there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play as well in terms of them sharing the thought process of the king. And of course, I'm assuming that it's the opposite as well, right? The king understands their thoughts just intrinsically now. They're all linked for, the remainder of their lives, however long they might be, right? Because again, there's some things that you simply cannot forget, right? I'm always, I've mentioned it on a few occasions now, you always have to keep thinking about the radioactive fallout and the exposure to it. And it is, ground zero If you look at it from Meruem's perspective, he's there at ground zero, took it point blank, right? Somehow, you know, he lives just long enough that his royal guards are able to find him, right? I mean, yes, I can look at it from another angle as well. It's a big swing, really big swing to make him actually live through it, as I said in the last episode's discussion as well, right? Because you're not going to show me that body if nothing's going to come out of it, right? The moment they found a body, and the moment the royal guard specifically found the body, at the least I knew something is going to happen here, as far as Meruem is concerned. Meruem, that it's not really truly the end, right? I mean, it's a complete recovery, and not only that, he comes back better, stronger, wiser than ever before. So if, before it was just an impossible thought that anyone but the chairman could, potentially stand up to him, now it's infinitely more impossible for the remaining members to do anything against Meruem. But I have my thoughts on that as well, the potential approach that Togashi might be taking here, right? Because listen, I'll be honest, if it's as simple as, Meruem comes back, and, it's just back to square one, right? Minus the chairman at this point, and, they do kind of, try to go and fight again, then, it's a little bit disappointing. Let's be honest here, that would be disappointing, but that's a hypothetical, because I don't think that's the angle that Togashi is about to take here. A rebirth of such magnitude, especially given the bonding experience and the experience Meruem also had, right? Again, you see he's had a bonding experience with his late queen mother as well. A newfound appreciation that he overlooked almost immediately the first time he's born. But this is a rare, cosmic second chance afforded to King Meruem, right? And you see some things are really quite different already. Now, at the basis of it, or at the most basic level, you see another risky plot device at this point of the arc, temporary memory loss, right? That's, again, a big swing. It's a risky move at this point. Now, it's not the type of memory loss that is just like an absolute, he's completely forgotten everything. It's an interesting take on it. Slowly, these things are going to come back to him. They are coming back to him, right? And that alone makes it interesting as well, given, the experiences he's had, right? I've always maintained that if he is to come back from the brink, from that really humbling experience, that terrifying experience, that traumatic experience, right? Of facing facing the chairman in those final moments as he detonates the miniature rose. If he's to come out alive on the other side, I've always maintained that it simply has to mean something, right? Something important has to come out of it. He simply has to come out a changed individual on the other side of this. And he is here now. He is on the other side of this. And he's here better than ever, like I stated, right? He's incorporated. At this point, there's a clear indication that he certainly incorporated Yuppie's abilities, right? The wings and all that. I love how, Chibi Yuppie is so proud to see his king rock those wings, right? And, even from that perspective, it must feel so incredible, right? I mean, they've done the ultimate already by giving themselves up, their essence, to the king. And, they've become connected forever. Now there's like a familial bond that I've already seen hints of. The King Meruem, already has a bit of a different perspective on his guards, I believe. I already saw it. His demeanor has shifted already in terms of how he addresses them. So I think there's a much tighter familial bond at this point, instead of one of King and his subjects or his guard. Now let's kind of stick to that point for a bit. The notion of Yuppie getting to see his own abilities, branching out in his king, right? Yuppie must be thinking that everything that he's done up until this point, was to perfect these abilities, right? He's gone through it all. He's had his own incredible journey in a really short amount of time as well, right? So he must be thinking that everything he's done, everything he's learned, the growth, all of that, right, and developing these new abilities, it's been in the service of his king. And now the perfected abilities are being afforded to the king, right? Almost immediately transferred to his king. So imagine that, after being rewarded as they are, in the sense of complete unparalleled joy that they receive from doing this for their king. There's this aspect as well, right? Knowing that you're actively assisting your king now through this, just through the things that you've built up. So I really love that aspect of it. Just the joy that the royal guards get from this whole experience, from this incredible experience, right? This episode's, mainly about those three. I just legitimately love the things that happen for Yuppie and Poof in this one. But yeah, now that I've seen that he does have the wings from Yuppie, from one of his guards, one of his family rather, and it's essentially second nature. It's not even that he has to get used to them. No. He even said it. It's as if I've had these my entire life, something along those lines, right? What other parts of Poof and Yuppie is the king going to showcase in the upcoming episodes? That remains to be seen if it'll be an immediate follow-up, or maybe it might shift to Gon and Neferpito, right? Could be interesting. But yeah, this idea of Poof and Yuppie's really unique Nen being infused with their king. I think this episode actually is quite the pivot, incredible pivot in terms of the new dynamics that are introduced right in the conclusion of the arc, perhaps. Most things are kind of taken care of at this point, right? There's a few things that need to be wrapped up, but yeah, it's a really brave episode. I'll put it like that. Really brave episode. Or the events of this, the writing of this is really quite brave, in my opinion. As far as a pivot is concerned, this is just incredible. Just a couple of episodes ago, I had an episode like episode 126, right? And then, something a little bit different, something really different in this one, right? Just the approach of it, right? It's an incredible pivot, a brave one, but one that really works, for me at least. I called it a masterpiece because it feels like that, for me at least. It's a visual spectacle of the highest order, right? It's a really unique approach that allows for such enthralling visuals, right? To me, it really felt quite gripping. I felt that I was locked in because of the promise of it all, right from the beginning. And yeah, honestly, I think this is a top 5 episode, for me at least, for the Chimera Ant arc. It just is. It just immediately kind of goes into the Hall of Greats for me. It's certainly the type of episode that I'm sure kind of brings in a lot of different opinions, right? Again, given the subject matter and the approach of it, and the really unique out-of-body experiences, that I was about to say both, but all three of these have, right? The shared experiences of all three, Meruem, Poof, and Yuppie. Earlier me, from a different arc perhaps, 40, 50, 60 episodes ago, could not even imagine that I'd be sitting here after an episode such as this one, full of characters that are just completely new to me in this arc, and have this type of, experience from it. Feel something like this from the experiences of these characters. And, as a lover of storytelling, these are the types of experiences that I really hunt for, always, right? Always. And once I get something like this, it's just I do tend to appreciate it quite a bit. Like I said, Eva inspiration, and I think it really, really is quite effective here, given the subject matter. Unconditional love and the depiction of it, and of course, motherhood being the central basis of it all, the depiction of it, because at the end of the day, the ultimate type of unconditional love is a mother's love. And our King Meruem, at this point of his life, after getting this incredible second chance, has again a newfound appreciation for it. He, part of him must be sad as well. I think a long time ago, around the time he first came about, his first birth, in that discussion, I believe I discussed, ideas of him potentially, being upset with himself later down the line, perhaps, as far as his treatment of his queen mother. And you see now in this incredible rebirth sequence that he feels it, right? He's essentially one of the luckiest people alive to experience that once again, right? Mother's love, unconditional love of his late queen mother. It's simply just incredible, right? And that's one of the reasons I really truly believe that, it's not just about to continue into, oh, okay, King Meruem is back and he's going to go and decimate the rest of the extermination squad and that's it. No. I don't think Takashi is about to take such a simple approach after such an incredible second chance. But of course, there is one character in FILMBuFF who hopes for that, right? Because right now he has the perfect chance for a reset, right? A factory reset. And he springs into action almost immediately, though he gets bamboozled, right? Because our extermination squad saw it coming through Palm. And the crazy thing is they might actually find themselves defending Komugi from FILMBuFF, right? How about that? But again, like I said, Komugi is not someone they consider to be dangerous. Surely, especially at this point, now that they've spent a lot of time with her. I mean, maybe not a lot of time, but surely at this point they understand, okay, she's just someone who got caught up in all of this. But she is someone that means quite a bit to the king. Maybe there have been some off-screen conversations that took place. But yeah, Puff sees this as an opening. Seeing these characters have these spiritual, sexual, extravagant, exquisite, intellectual pleasures of the highest order, right? Cosmic orgasms at that. Cosmic bliss, all of that, right? Ascension, rebirth, reaching the pinnacle, right? Being queen, to give life to the one they love most, to nurse them back to health, to nurse their king back to health. It's all just such a compelling and gripping sequence, the first half of this episode. And listen, I don't think it's played for laughs. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that, it might not be funny for people, right? Because I just know, this type of thing is going to be funny for some people, right? It's as simple as that, right? I'm not saying everyone has to feel comfortable, during those sequences. Hell, it even took me by surprise, only because, I just didn't expect something like this to happen, right? But once it goes there, then I'm really quite locked in and quite excited that it is taking this approach. But yeah, once you kind of get over the initial shock factor that it is taking that approach, then, it's just really quite incredible, in my opinion at least. But again, just because it might not be played for laughs doesn't mean that, a lot of the audience didn't find it comedic and uncomfortable and all of that, right? People are different. They I don't know, they react to things differently, comprehend things differently, right? I'm thinking there might actually be a lot of fans that are put off by this, right? And maybe it's possible because of that they think it's actually not a great episode, right? But listen, some of the stuff that's at play here, right? Again, that shared orgasmic experience and all of that. I believe I called it an orgy at one point because it appears to be the case, right? Listen, I've seen quite a bit. I've seen quite a bit in my lifetime, all kinds of film, stuff that's infinitely more, perplexing and out there than this. So, I can only speak for myself. It's not that, the stuff that's taking place here isn't that crazy to me, right? Just initially quite surprising because I'm not expecting it from this. But let me kind of quickly go back to Yuppie, right? There's this lingering thought that I had that I do want to complete. Our lovable fatso's back, right? APR. Because, of course, Poof gets tagged by Knuckle, assisted by Melioron, of course. And immediately it showcases itself, right? And everyone's noticed it at this point. Now, there's an interesting opening there, right? Because out of the three, there is someone who's actually had a run-in with that ability, right? Yuppie. It's essentially the basis of one of the biggest turning points in that character arc. It facilitates something quite incredible for someone like Montete Yuppie, right? His own breakthrough. But you see, at this point, Yuppie has not mentioned anything about it, right? He hasn't specified anything about that creature that's following them. Now, again, it's right at the conclusion of the episode. So, it's not, maybe, I shouldn't say that Yuppie hasn't said anything yet. Maybe, that could continue into the next episode, perhaps, right? But it's there. That opening is there because Yuppie does know. I think that's an interesting angle there, if it does come out. And the thing is, it might not actually have to come out. It could just be there already, given this whole shared essence thing that's going on now, right? Sharing thoughts with each other. that they actually could be one entity altogether. Poof, Yuppie, and Meruem. So he might already know. He might. But then, if that's the case, Poof knows this. Poof is actually the first one to say, they share the thoughts of the king as well. So that's specified really early on. So, Poof is taking quite a risk here, going for this, tactic of trying to get there first and take care of Komugi, so the king's never going to remember anyways, that kind of thing. But like I said, I most definitely believe that, slowly it is going to come back to him. Something that important is going to slowly come back to him, right? You see, he's already drawn to the palace. He's already drawn to Komugi, I believe at least. That something important is there, that, his big answer, it's there to the palace, and he's in flight at the moment trying to get to it. But yeah, Poof sees the opening there, right, to again reset the king's trajectory, I suppose. More on that in a bit, but yeah, if that's the case, both of them are going to be in really interesting situations, right? If King Meruem does specify, okay, I know your thoughts at the moment, Yuppie, I know that you've had this encounter, you know who this is, or what this creature is. And then for Poof, I know, you're attempting something here, right? I know you're trying to get to the palace before us, right? Is it about to take that angle? But, say it is in the open. How exactly could Yuppie handle that? But, episodes ago, I spoke of executive decisions and all of that, right? And that I hope someone like Poof does take those decisions or make those decisions. How about this for an executive one? At this point, he's looking at this as the perfect chance to realign his vision of his ideal king, right? His ideal king is not Meruem-sama, right? It's just the king. The Chimera ain't king. So, that's a distinction here. Before the rebirth, he's the king, right? And now he's full on completely embraced his name and, in extension to that, his identity, his individuality, right? Meruem. That's the name my mother gave me. I mean, yes, from one angle, it certainly appears that he's trying to take advantage of his king, and, using this opening, at least at this point, he thinks it's an opening. It all remains to be seen if Meruem already knows both of their intentions, or at least Poof's intentions in this case, and he's just kind of keeping it to himself for now. He's still doing his duty, right? This is still in line with the type of royal guard that he is. Right, he's always held this belief that he's here to service, or in service of that king, right? A really specific type of king at that. Like I said, his ideal king, and ultimately it always kind of comes back to that question, right? Does Poof have the best interests of the king in mind, or the best interests in what the king's best interests should be? Right? It's essentially the latter. So yes, Poof continues to believe that Komugi destabilizes the king's mind. Right, his motives, right, brings about conflict within him, right, gives him reason for pause, and no true king should really have any reason for pause, any reason for regret, as showcased episodes ago at this point, right before the Dragon Dive episode, up on the balcony. So yeah, ultimately, if you look at it from Shawa Poof's perspective, his actions are to benefit the king, right? He loves the king, not Meruem-sama. But going back to the royal guards and, their further inclusion in any combat situations, yes, Yuppie is out of it, but Poof is in an interesting situation, right? Because before, showing up here, he had some of his clones, even though, they're more so, extensions of his sentient being, right? These are sentient beings that are just kind of detached from the main source. So they still exist out there. I mean, I saw one of them. I saw the big one. So I saw it get tagged by Knuckles. So that form of Shawa Poof is still at play, right? Could be at play for the final stages of this, essentially, as he is trying to hunt down Komugi. But even so, that's still not a full strength Shawa Poof, right? The main body, I suppose, gave up a lot of it to its king, right? And the thing is, even then, there's maybe a tad bit of jealousy at play earlier on, right? But then, it's such an incredible experience that even Shawa Poof doesn't give a crap about jealousy at that point. After seeing Monteta Yuppie give himself up as well, right? Liquefy his cells, I believe that's the term that's utilized there. So, I mean, in a sense, could you say that in this phase, and perhaps this final phase, it's actually FILMBuFF who's maybe being set up as the villain of it all, right? And, Meruem is essentially the antagonist from, again, one perspective, right? If you look at it from the extermination squad's perspective. But going back to, Meruem actually surviving all of this, again, the miniature rose and all of that, though, again, there could be some lingering effects of it. Again, I'll come back to that in a bit. My constant concerns about it, and I am speaking about the radioactive fallout, right? Because if you're going to make, I've said this before, but if you're going to make the nuke itself, the mini nuke or, the miniature rose, if you're going to ground that and make it really quite realistic, then of course, the connotations and the actual literal fallout of it, it has to match it. It has to be grounded and realistic. So I do believe that might play a part here at some point. I mean, it might be at play already, right? And that's why, I kept saying, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about them flying into, the active, radioactive fallout, right? Ground zero. But, ultimately, I think this return, right, in this capacity, right, taking this specific approach for a return of the king, Meruem, I think it's acceptable. I think it actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because you see there's a lot of moving pieces. Hell, if they don't make it, if the two guards don't make it there, and then if Yuppie doesn't decide to go in, right, into the active lava and actually, retrieve the charred body, the remains, again, that it kind of allows for that really incredible imagery of Yuppie cradling the king's body as if it's a newborn, right? They actually, focus on that on a few occasions. The way he's holding the body, I'd say one of the most incredible, moments of this anime altogether is that shot of them being in the womb essentially, but it's kind of being showcased through them being underwater. But there's that one shot of the queen's loving, guiding light, right? Just above a floating Monte Yuppie as he cradles the king's body. It's an incredible image. I really believe that span of the sequence is just so effective in evoking, this sense of warmth that they all felt, right? There's that one beautiful moment as Meruem looks up, right? The yellow Meruem, and you see the shadow of the queen's palm or her hand. Everything about that just felt so safe, right? That all of them are safe right now at the moment. I felt that the warmth of it is just kind of exuding from the screen. A little bit earlier on, I mentioned stuff like, spiritual, sexual, intellectual experience for all of them, right? This bonding experience, but I forgot to mention it's also quite a religious experience as well. There is symbolism here. There's symbology here, religious symbology here. I think some of these shots are really you look at Yuppie and Poof standing, right, almost kind of like standing at the gates in front of this ethereal entity that is the mother, right? You look at the robes, right? You look at just the hair. You look at the light that it's emitting. That figure, right, that mother figure, and they stand in front of it and they bow down to it as well. It's certainly at play. And then there's another really incredible image, right? It's presenting Monte Yuppie as an angel figure, right? You see the wings, you see the incredible light, you see, the smoke and the lava and all of that in the background, but you see the light. I mean, the image itself looks like it could be right out of a chapel, right? Like on a ceiling of a chapel. So yeah, in addition to all of that, right, all the things I kind of listed off, it's a religious experience as well, right, in a sense. And earlier on I mentioned cannibalism as this metaphor for love. In this case, it's more so of a nourishing and reciprocal love. It's a coming together of mind, body, and soul, right? All consuming, all encompassing. And in this case, it's presented as this kind of a yearning feeling, right? To be completely whole with someone else. And in this case, their king, Meruem-sama. But yeah, it's a really interesting new dynamic here, right? This idea of deconstruction and reconstruction. And now, he comes out the other side as Meruem, right? Fully embracing that identity, that name his, queen mother gave him, right? Newfound fondness for his queen mother. And like I said, there's a good chance he might end up regretting his initial reactions and treatment of the queen mother. But yeah, this whole idea of the memory loss, like I said, big swing, it's a risky move. But again, I feel like it does check out given, again, the traumatic experience he had, right? With the miniature Rose, be it physically traumatic, psychologically traumatic. And yeah, I think it does make sense. I feel like it checks out. And, it also kind of plays into that whole idea of, I think it was episode 122, right? Sorry, not Meruem. The chairman, he spoke of the duality of the king. At any given moment, he could sway back and forth between the two. Now, the idea of memory loss, it really kind of heightens that aspect of it as well, right? As it slowly comes back to it, the direction he's going to head into. And you see Poof is certainly trying to guide his king into a really specific one as far as the direction is concerned, but I think it'll be a bit more compelling than that, right? As his memories begin to come back to him. At this point, I firmly believe that Togashi does have something really quite memorable and satisfying at the end of this. And of course, let's not forget that this makes a Komugi reunion possible now. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much a given that is going to happen, right? But even that, I'm sure there's going to be some special setup for that, right? Because at the moment, he feels that the answer that he seeks is at the palace, but he doesn't quite remember Komugi. But it'll come, and I'm quite excited about that. But yeah, like I said earlier, incredible episode. So memorable, and I think it's one of the standouts of the Chimera Ant arc. It's so different. It is so different, and it really pays off in this case. And to bring in an episode such as this, the experimental approach, this late in the game, it's commendable. It really is quite commendable. And listen, I get it. It might not be for everyone, but it certainly is for me. I think it's a special episode, and I believe that these profound shared experiences are certainly going to be playing quite the integral role or part in these final stages of the arc, perhaps. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel as well in the process of that. The links are in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.